What's up? What's happening from Ashburn today, where I just sat through an hour press conference. Yep, that's what today was. Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and Josh Harris on the mics. Lots of great questions, lots of interesting answers, and we are here to talk about it with you on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube. I would just say on the biggest, widest scope here, on the widest swath that I can give to you, that was a very interesting press conference. Dan Quinn is an interesting person who's led an interesting life, and someone who I think sees himself as this guy that is very lucky to be in the position that he's in, and someone that wants to work really hard to stay there. He is someone who has thought a lot about himself and his role and what he can mean to people and how to win football games and what it takes to build a roster and all of the things that you would actually want to hear from a head coach. And I'm going to say this once in the hopes that I never have to say it again. But if you consumed even 5 minutes of that press conference and think that this is Ron Rivera 2.0, I just don't know what to tell you. You are being willfully ignorant. You are trying to be mad. You are trying to be disappointed. You are probably protecting your own feelings because everything that has been your Washington football existence in any form or fashion for the last 30 years has been almost exclusively terrible. And by telling yourself that this is Ron Rivera 2.0, then you get to say, oh, this sucks. This guy's an idiot. If it does go sideways, oh, this was just Ron all over again. You all are dumb. That's not the case. It's just not. And I'm not telling you that Dan Quinn is going to win Super Bowls here. I'm not telling you that he's 100% guaranteed to succeed. We're going to get to Cliff Kingsbury and that hire, and I have conflicted thoughts that I want to talk through on the show today about that hire and all of those things. But Dan Quinn is reflective. Dan Quinn has a vision. And those two things alone are enough to make me go, I get why they gave this guy the job. His resume as a defensive coordinator is outstanding. And I think one of the things that he knows is he's got to be more involved there. He was too hands-off in Atlanta. I will say I wish he was calling plays here. He said during the press conference that Joe Witt Jr., his defensive coordinator, that he's bringing with him from Dallas, who they officially announced, I guess early this morning, late last night, that those guys... or that Joe Witt is going to call plays. Now, Joe Witt's very good and was a big part of the play calling operation, I think. He was kind of the pass game coordinator, someone who's very involved with the coverage structures and shells and how they taught it, how they coached it, how they called it in Dallas under DQ. And so I'm not saying that Joe Witt Jr. isn't necessarily going to be a good play caller. It's just something that Dan Quinn is so spectacular at that I do wonder if he's maximizing his ability to succeed, if he's giving up that very important responsibility on his side of the ball. But he knows he can't be his hands off there. He knows that if things start to slip, he's got to get involved and get involved quickly. He can't do what Ron Rivera did, which is let the defensive coordinator just keep doing the things that he was doing and then eventually get to the point where you have to fire him and then you take over with 5 games to go in an already lost season. You're the head coach. You get to go now. And Dan Quinn, I think, is going to be involved from go on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, offensively, we'll see with Cliff, but we'll circle back to that 10 minutes from now in the next segment. I think the biggest thing that I take away from the hour that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and Josh Harris just spoke is this, and we'll let you hear plenty of that. Anthony, by the way, how many cuts are there from that press conference?
32.
32 cuts. Quinn, what's the longest cut? Quinn told some stories. We might get the transcript sometime by Wednesday.
Nah, for real. He probably has like a couple of 3-minute like cuts.
Yeah. He was extensive. I'm not mad about it. Because they were good. It wasn't till the very end where I was like, damn, this is a long presser. This one's starting to drag a little bit. Being in the room, I can understand if you were sitting in a studio cutting it all, you're like, good gracious. But I think that the thing that I take out of that hour from those 32 questions and answers that got called and responded to over the last hour, I think that the fact that he had a clear vision of what he wants, that when he was asked by someone, like, what does a Dan Quinn football team look like? And I apologize to the someone. There were 32 questions, none of which were mine. I got stuck, but we're hoping to have the ability to ask a lot more later in the week. We'll see if we can get that done. But point is, I apologize to whoever asked this question because I thought it was a good one and I don't remember who it is. But somebody asked, like, what does a Dan Quinn football team actually look like? Like, if you're going to use adjectives, Scott Abraham actually asked it this way. If you're going to use adjectives to describe what it looks like. Anthony, do you have that cut ready? If not, I can kind of go.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds.
All right, 2 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Anthony, I need you to be explosive here because that is one of the adjectives that Dan Quinn used. Sir, are you ready? Now, your explosive playmaking ability as a producer to find the cut that otherwise now I'm just vamping because nope, no cut. And we can't start the Dan Quinn era off on this.
It was cut 23. I only made it through 17 by the time he finished. So
Then why did you initially nod yes and tell me you had it?
No, I had written down all of the cuts. That's all I was saying.
Yeah. I guess that saves you from the fine that puts us over the top, but that's pretty close. We might have to run back that tape. We might have to ask the YouTube audience. Actually, no, I think you actually got lucky because I think I had my solo shot up, not the shot where people could see you. I could see you. The point is, he was asked by Scott Abraham to use actual adjectives of like what a Dan Quinn team looks like. And unlike Ron Rivera and many other football coaches who have hemmed and hawed through those answers and never really want to have a direct answer because they do coach speak and don't have actual substance to them, Dan Quinn said this.
Say 2 right now would be explosive and physical. And the explosive comes offensively and on the return game from big plays through the run game, through play action, through the passing game, ones that can change field position. And those are the explosive plays that you have to keep going and being aggressive to go. On defense, that's the energy-generating football that takes place on an interception, on a score for, returning on defense, a forced fumble, the sacks, the ones that create negative plays for an offense to put them in some disadvantaged situations, like we like playing from 2nd and 12 and 13 and 3rd and longer. So how do you do that? You've got to be bold. You've got to be aggressive. Having the players to do that, that's part of what we do, and then train them to do it over and over and over again. It's so important for us to find guys of things they can do versus things they can't do. And I can remember early on as a coach hearing a scout say, well, like, oh, he's a little slow, he's, not very long, but he said, man, I can't wait to watch him. I want to find the unique stuff that a guy does have, and then how do we put him into this? And so if we bring a guy here, I want to make sure I'm very clear to Adam to say, this is how we would feature this player. He's the F tight end. He's the second halfback. He's the starting, defensive end, whatever that looks like. And then we can push that player into that vision. Quite honestly, when players leave college, they don't know what their vision is. And that's our job to help them get there. And why do guys develop faster than others? Sometimes the vision of what they can become is so different than what they did in college. They chose a college, the system changed, the coaching staff changed, whatever it might have been. And now you put them into a space that you know how to feature them. So why do late round draft picks and free agents take off? There was a specific plan for how that guy could be used. And that's the connection I have to be able to give to Adam as often as I can. So explosive and physical. And I'd hope, teams that have to play against us are like, damn, this is going to be hard today. And having that physical nature of the way that we finish plays that jumps out off tape, inspires others that we're with, and keeps pushing this standard that you're going to hear me say a lot, finding these standards together. So I would say explosive and physical would be 2 things that I hope every time we play and get it on that you guys feel that.
Good enough for me. That's what you want to hear. because I think that's where the NFL is right now. The teams that win are explosive and physical. They have big-time playmakers. And when he was asked about the roster at another point, a bite will play for you a little bit later, he's asked about the roster, and he said, obviously the interior of the D-line stands out to him, Allen and Payne, and the playmakers at wide receivers. He's like, I had to play against those guys. They're a pain in the butt. But you need players that can own the line of scrimmage and create matchups on the outside. And I think that goes both ways. That goes offensively and defensively. It's why, they put such a great emphasis and did such a great job with their corners in Dallas. Like, they want guys who they tip the balance of what those matchups are supposed to be on the outside. And that level of specificity in terms of a plan. Like, they don't have the players yet. They don't have exactly who all those things are yet. But what they do have is a real understanding of what they want. And that is already a step ahead of the last regime, because I'll tell a quick story from our not speaking out of school here, from our event Friday night, because that was all off air. But one of the questions that we talked about was why things failed over the last 4 years, and Doc and B. Mitch gave these really great answers about attitude and all these different things, and I just chimed in quickly at the end to say, the thing that tied them together, the lack of a plan, or the lack of ability to motivate, players' decisions being all over the place, all of this, is they never have a plan, or they never had a plan. You can't build to something if you don't have the blueprint. Dan Quinn seems to come in aligned, to use their word, with Adam Peters, with a blueprint, which is why they have a great chance to succeed. Not guaranteed, nothing is, but they got a shot. And that is, I think, far more than realistically we could have said at another introductory press conference 4 years ago, and at many other introductory press conferences over the last 25 years of Washington football. When we get back, one of the most important decisions that Dan Quinn is going to make, at least for the 2024 season, has already been made, and that is he's hiring Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator. The pros and cons of that next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.